You. Honey, can you grab me the oregano?
I'll try. What the hell is adobo? Oh my God, this is ridiculous, this cabinet.
It should be right there. Come on. Not?
Garlic powder, cumin, sesame seed, bay leaves, dill weed, cloves, barbecue rub. I have no idea where anything is in this damn cabinet.
We really have to do something about that cabinet.
Yeah.
Honey, can you get me the oregano? So as you've seen, our spice cabinet is a mess, and we've been wanting to organize it for a long time. So there's a blizzard out today, perfect day to organize your spice cabinet. So what I did is I went online and I ordered a box of 40 of these little jars. And they're just little glass jars with lids. And I think they were about $26 for 40 of them. And we can leave the link down below in case you want to order the same ones. They did come with these little tiny labels and this big thick pen. So I don't know what you're supposed to write on the little tiny label with the big thick pen. So that wasn't going to work for me. It wasn't going to be any more organized if I had little tiny labels on my spice jar. So we're going to use the Cricut to make our own labels. So I measured across the top of the lids, and they're almost 3 inches across, so that we can't go any bigger than about 2.5 inches or so. So I went into Design Space on my Cricut, and first thing I did was chose a shape, the shape of a circle from Shapes, and it happened to be 2 inches in diameter, so it was perfect. I didn't even have to size it. And we're just going to use this circle as a guide so that we don't have to measure each individual word as we type it in. So we know that if the word fits inside that circle, that it will fit on the top of the spice jar on the lid. Okay, so I typed in each spice name. I had a list of over 30, I believe, and I centered the words, and then I sized them to fit within the circle. And this took a few minutes because I had quite a few spices that I had to do, but it didn't take too long. So once we're finished typing in all of the names of our spices and we're ready to cut, we're going to delete the circle because we're not going to cut that. We were just using that as a guide. We won't need that anymore when we're done typing. So now we're getting ready to cut the words, the spice words, and I deleted the circle because we don't need that anymore. And when I hit make it, all of the spice names are all squished up at the top of the page. So I kind of spread those out before I cut it. Otherwise it was going to be a nightmare to cut apart each individual spice name. So I used Oracle 651 vinyl, the permanent vinyl, in white. Because the white is going to stand out really well on the black lids of the spice jars. And it took a little while to cut because there were quite a few words that had to be done. So now all the spices are cut out, and I'm really glad that I did spread them apart before I cut them because it's so hard to see them on the white vinyl to try to cut them apart and separate them. We had a little bit of waste vinyl waste, but not much. It wasn't bad. And once they're all cut out, then we're going to start weeding them. And most people don't like weeding, but I find it so relaxing. I really do enjoy weeding, so this was a great project for me. And the little tool that I'm using to weed with is actually a clay worker's tool, and I found that it's the best tool for weeding vinyl. I had one and I used it, and then it broke, so I actually had to order a whole new clay workers kit because I couldn't find one of those individually, but they're really cheap and it's worth it because it works so well for weeding. Okay, so now they're all weeded and they're ready to be applied to the tops of the spice jars on the lids. So I'm using a little piece of transfer tape, and I use my transfer tape over and over again. When I first bought my Cricut about 5 years ago, I ordered a big roll of transfer tape, and I actually still have that same roll of transfer tape, and I've made thousands of projects, so it pays to reuse your vinyl. I use this one little square of, your transfer tape. I use this one little square of transfer tape to do all of the spice jars. And in the beginning, I'm just trying to finger burnish the letters down because my scraping tool, my Cricut scraping tool, wouldn't work on the top of the lids because there's a ridge around the lid that is smaller than the scraping tool. So I couldn't use the scraping tool that I usually use, this thing right here. So I was just trying to finger burnish the letters down, and that wasn't working great. The letters kept pulling up. But then Joe had a really good idea, and he went and got me one of his really thick guitar or bass picks. He plays bass in a band, so he's got a huge selection of picks. And he went and got me one of the thicker ones right here. And so I started using that to burnish down the letters, and it worked perfectly. I didn't have an issue again with the letters not sticking. Great idea, Joe. This took a little while, but then there are the jars in the drawer in my pantry cabinet. I decided not to put the spices back into the cupboard where they were originally, but to use the drawers underneath the cupboards, which is probably what those drawers were intended for. We got this pantry cabinet at Home Depot because we don't have a lot of cabinet space in our kitchen, so basically all our food is in that one cabinet. But I think those drawers were actually meant to hold spices, and I just had never realized it before, but they're the perfect size. So here I am emptying my spices into the appropriate spice jars. And as you can see, spice jars come in all different sizes and shapes and heights, and I think if they were a universal size, people wouldn't have such an issue with messy spice cabinets, but I don't think that'll ever happen. But I don't have an issue with messy spice cabinet anymore because I have two nice, neat spice drawers now. When I open those drawers, I can very easily find the spice that I'm looking for. So